Simple question. Look at your hand. Really look at it this time. You've seen it thousands of times throughout your entire life. But have you ever truly stopped and asked yourself, why does it look exactly like that? Why precisely 5 fingers and not 6, not 4, not some other number entirely? Why soft, sensitive skin instead of hard, protective scales or thick, armored plates? Why do you breathe this precise mixture of air, drink this exact chemical composition of water, and feel comfortable at this specific range of temperature that seems so perfectly natural to you? Most people never ask these questions. They go through their entire existence without questioning what seems obvious, without wondering about the things that surround them every single day. But if you do ask, something changes profoundly within you. Something shifts in a way that cannot be reversed. Something transforms at the very core of how you understand your place in this universe. Because the answer isn't anything close to what you think it is. And once you hear this truth, once it settles into your consciousness, you will never see yourself or this pale blue planet the same way again. I promise you that. We grow up believing something beautiful and comforting. We believe deep in our bones that Earth was made specifically for us. It feels so obvious, doesn't it? So self-evident that questioning it seems almost foolish. The air is perfectly breathable for our lungs. The water is ideally drinkable for our bodies. The temperature stays within a range that our physiology can tolerate. Fruits grow abundantly on trees within arm's reach. The sun rises faithfully every single morning to warm our faces and light our way. It's almost too convenient to be coincidental, too perfect to be accidental, like someone designed this entire place with human beings specifically in mind. A garden planted and cultivated just for us, a cosmic gift wrapped in blue oceans and green forests. Right? Wrong. Profoundly, fundamentally wrong. Earth wasn't made for humans. Humans were made by Earth, slowly, painfully, over incomprehensible stretches of time. And there's a profound, earth-shaking difference between those two ideas. One makes you feel like a guest of honor at a banquet prepared in your name. The other reveals something far more humbling and strange, something far more mysterious and beautiful, something that changes everything about how you understand your own existence. Let me show you exactly what I mean. And here's the strange part that most people never consider. We fit this planet so perfectly, so seamlessly, so completely, not because the planet was carefully designed for us by some cosmic architect, but because we were slowly, painstakingly, mercilessly sculpted by its forces over unimaginable periods of time, over billions upon billions of years, through endless trial and error, through death and survival in equal measure, through mass extinctions and desperate adaptations that stretch back to a time before there were eyes to see the light or lungs to breathe the air. You don't fit Earth because Earth was built according to your specifications. You fit Earth because Earth built you according to its own rules, atom by atom, molecule by molecule, generation by generation, catastrophe by catastrophe. Think carefully about what that truly implies. Your eyes didn't evolve to see light because light was somehow meant to be seen by creatures like you. Your eyes evolved because the ancient organisms that could detect electromagnetic radiation in a particular range of wavelengths happened to have a slight advantage over those that couldn't. They could find food more efficiently in their environment. They could spot and avoid predators before it was too late. They could navigate their world with greater precision. They could survive just long enough to reproduce and pass on their genes. And so, over millions upon millions of generations, crude, light-sensitive patches of cells became increasingly complex spheres of jelly and nerve, biological cameras of flesh and fluid, tuned precisely to the wavelengths of light that our particular star happens to emit most strongly. Your eyes are optimized for sunlight because sunlight is what was available. Not because the universe wanted you to see and appreciate its wonders, not because some grand plan required your vision, but simply because that's the light that happened to be there. Now multiply that same logic across every single part of your body, every organ, every system, every cell. Your lungs extract oxygen from the atmosphere because early Earth's atmosphere, transformed by ancient microscopic bacteria over billions of years, eventually filled with oxygen as a waste product of their metabolism. Your blood runs on iron because iron was extraordinarily abundant in the young planet's volcanic chemistry. Your bones contain calcium because the ancient oceans, where your distant ancestors first emerged, were saturated with it. You are not separate from the Earth in any meaningful sense. You are the Earth itself, rearranged into a different configuration, organized into a pattern that can think, awake and aware, temporarily. But it goes much deeper than that, because this planet wasn't always a place where anything remotely like you could possibly survive. For the first 2 billion years of its existence, Earth was a poisonous, hostile nightmare. A world utterly alien to everything you know and love. The atmosphere was thick with methane, ammonia, carbon dioxide, and other gases that would kill you instantly. The oceans were hot enough to scald flesh and acidic enough to dissolve bone. If you could somehow travel back in time and step onto that early Earth with your fragile human body, you would die in seconds, not slowly and peacefully, violently and painfully. The air itself would burn your lungs from the inside out. The water would dissolve your skin like acid eating through paper. The radiation from the young sun would cook your cells. There was no oxygen to breathe, no ozone layer to protect delicate life from ultraviolet radiation, nothing but raw, hostile, indifferent chemistry under a young, violent, unstable sun. And here's the thing that should make you pause. That wasn't a broken Earth. That wasn't a mistake in the cosmic plan. That wasn't a rough draft waiting to be corrected. That was Earth, the real Earth, the authentic Earth. The Earth as it genuinely existed for most of its entire history. The version you know, the one with blue skies and gentle breezes and forests full of singing birds and meadows carpeted with wildflowers. That's the anomaly. That's the exception. That's the brief, fragile, temporary moment you happen to be born into by pure chance. And you fit this particular version of Earth so perfectly, precisely because your ancestors were shaped by it, filtered by it, tested by it, selected by it over hundreds of millions of years of relentless evolutionary pressure. The planet didn't change its nature to welcome you with open arms. You changed your nature to survive whatever the planet threw at you. Now think very carefully about what that truly means. If Earth's entire history were compressed into a single calendar year, with the planet forming on January 1st at midnight, humans wouldn't appear until the final seconds before midnight strikes on December 31st. Not the final day of that year, not the final hour, the final seconds. For almost the entire calendar, from January through late December, the Earth belonged to other things entirely, to microbes too small to see floating in primordial seas, to trilobites crawling across ancient ocean floors, to ferns and fungi covering landscapes with no eyes to witness them, to fish with armored heads and no jaws, to dinosaurs ruling for 100 million years, to strange and wonderful creatures you've never heard of and never will. Earth hosted life in abundance for billions of years before anything remotely resembling a human being ever existed anywhere. We are not the point of this story. We are not the purpose for which Earth exists. We are not the destination toward which everything was heading. We are one experiment among trillions of experiments. One small branch on an inconceivably vast tree of life, and most branches end. Most species that have ever lived on this planet are now completely extinct, gone forever from the universe, erased by the passage of time, by advancing ice sheets, by volcanic fire, by shifting climates, by stones falling from the sky without warning. And here's where it becomes truly unforgettable. The very features of Earth that seem so perfectly suited to human life, the breathable air, the drinkable water, the comfortable temperature, the protective magnetic field, they're not permanent fixtures. They're not stable conditions guaranteed by some cosmic law. They're the result of a delicate, temporary, precarious balance that has shifted dramatically before and will certainly shift again. The oxygen you're breathing right now as you read these words, it wasn't always here. It didn't exist in Earth's original atmosphere. It appeared because of cyanobacteria, tiny, humble, single-celled organisms that learned to perform photosynthesis and, as a mere byproduct of their metabolism, released oxygen into the atmosphere for billions of years, slowly, steadily, relentlessly, and this was catastrophic for the world that existed before. This was the Great Oxygenation Event, and it killed almost everything that existed at the time. Oxygen was poison to the life forms that had evolved in an oxygen-free world. Their biochemistry couldn't handle this reactive, corrosive gas. They died in incomprehensible numbers that we cannot even begin to calculate. The greatest extinction event in Earth's history, and it was caused by microscopic organisms simply doing what they evolved to do. But some organisms adapted to the new reality. They evolved new chemistry. They learned to use oxygen instead of dying from it, to burn it for energy in their cells, to harness its reactivity for their own purposes. And from those fortunate, adaptable survivors, through countless generations of change, eventually came you. You breathe oxygen not because it was designed specifically for your lungs by a caring creator. You breathe oxygen because your lungs were designed by oxygen itself, by the strange, violent, accidental history of a planet that was never trying to accommodate anyone. Because this connects directly to the stars themselves. You are made of atoms that were forged in the cores of massive stars that died in spectacular explosions before our sun was even born. The carbon that forms the backbone of every molecule in your body. The iron that colors your blood red and carries oxygen to your tissues. The calcium that gives your bones their strength and structure. The phosphorus that stores energy in your cells. None of it came from Earth originally. All of it was cooked in stellar furnaces, millions of degrees hot, under pressures we cannot comprehend, fused together in the hearts of dying giants, then scattered across the vast emptiness of space in supernova explosions of unimaginable violence and beauty. These atoms drifted for millions of years through the cold void. They gathered into clouds of dust and gas illuminated by distant starlight. Those clouds slowly collapsed under their own gravity to form our solar system, our sun. Our planets, our moon, our Earth. You are recycled stardust, organized into a temporary pattern of breathtaking complexity, a pattern that can wonder about its own existence and origins, a pattern that can feel joy and sorrow, a pattern that can love and grieve and hope. And the planet you stand on is made of exactly the same material, the same ancient atoms from the same ancient stars, the same cosmic debris that has been wandering the universe for billions of years. Earth is a spaceship made of dead stars, carrying passengers made of dead stars. And you are one of those passengers who briefly woke up during the journey. And that's where it gets deeply personal. I want you to think about your grandmother for a moment. Or your grandfather, or whoever raised you when you were small and helpless. Think about someone who held you close when you were frightened, someone who told you everything would be all right, someone whose voice you can still hear clearly in your memory even now, someone whose face you can still see when you close your eyes. They were made of stardust, too. Every single atom in their beloved body traveled billions of miles across the unfathomable void of interstellar space before becoming part of them. Every molecule that formed their smile, their laugh, their tears, their warm embrace was borrowed from a universe that made no promises and offered no guarantees. And now most of those atoms have scattered again, returned to the soil of the earth, to the air you're breathing right now, to the sea that covers most of this planet's surface, to other living things that continue the ancient cycle. The great recycling continues as it always has. Nothing is permanent in this universe. Nothing is truly lost either. Nothing is really yours to keep forever. Not even you yourself. But here's the beautiful part that should fill you with wonder rather than despair. This impermanence isn't tragic at all. It's precisely what makes any of this possible in the first place. The atoms in your body right now have been part of countless other things before they became you. They've been rocks sitting silent for millennia and rivers flowing to the sea, trees reaching towards sunlight and dinosaurs walking the ancient earth, stars burning in the darkness and empty space between galaxies. And after you, those same atoms will be something else entirely, something new. Something different, something that doesn't exist yet and cannot be imagined. You are a temporary arrangement, a brief collaboration between ancient particles that have agreed, for a few precious decades, to call themselves by your name, to think your thoughts, to feel your feelings, to experience the world through your senses. That's not depressing. That's not a reason for despair. That's miraculous beyond words. That's beautiful beyond description. That's the greatest gift the universe could possibly offer. So what does all this actually mean for you and me? It means the question in the title, "What if Earth was never meant for humans?" isn't a provocation designed to disturb you. It's a liberation designed to free you. Because once you stop believing that Earth was designed specifically for you and your kind, something truly wonderful happens inside you. You stop feeling entitled to this place and its gifts. And you start feeling genuinely, deeply grateful for every single moment. You realize, with absolute clarity, that the fact you exist at all is a statistical absurdity of the highest order, that your particular arrangement of atoms could have been literally anything else, or nothing at all, but instead, for a brief flicker of cosmic time, it gets to be you, looking up at the stars on a clear night, asking questions about existence and meaning, feeling wonder at the sheer improbability of it all. How many atoms in the entire universe will ever get to do that? How many particles, scattered across billions of galaxies, will ever experience the warmth of love, or the beauty of music, or the simple pleasure of the smell of rain on dry earth? Almost none, an infinitesimally, unimaginably small fraction of all the matter that exists. And you're one of them, right now, in this very moment, on this small planet, which isn't yours, which was never meant for you, which owes you nothing, but which you get to experience anyway, as a guest, as a witness, as a brief and beautiful accident of cosmic proportions. Now think about this next point very carefully. Humans have existed for approximately 300,000 years. That sounds like an impressively long time to minds like ours. But Earth has existed for 4.5 billion years. If Earth's entire history were a book with 1,000 pages of small text, humans would appear in the last sentence of the last paragraph of the last page. Actually, even less than that. We would be a single punctuation mark in that vast tome, a comma, a brief pause, a single breath between words. And yet we've somehow convinced ourselves that the entire story was written for us, that the whole book exists primarily to explain the comma, that all those pages came before simply to set the stage for our brief appearance. It's a beautiful delusion in its way, very human, very understandable. But it's still a delusion. And there's something much better waiting on the other side of it. Something more honest, something more true, something more connected to reality as it actually is. Because when you finally realize that Earth wasn't meant for you, you also realize something else equally important. You realize that you have no cosmic right to this place and its treasures, no divine entitlement to its resources, no guarantee of continuation into the future. The universe owes you absolutely nothing. Earth owes you absolutely nothing. Every breath you take is a gift from indifferent chemistry. Every heartbeat is borrowed time that must eventually be returned. And that knowledge changes everything about how you live. It makes you tender toward all living things. It makes you careful with what you've been given. It makes you want to protect this strange, violent, beautiful planet. Not because it belongs to you and you have property rights over it, but because you belong to it and always have. Because you are it. Conscious, aware, wondering. And here's the final piece of this cosmic puzzle, the part that might stay with you long after you've finished reading these words. Carl Sagan once said that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Think about that statement for a long moment. Let it settle into you. The universe is mostly empty, incomprehensibly, terrifyingly empty. Mostly cold, beyond any cold you've ever experienced. Mostly dead and silent. Hydrogen clouds drifting in absolute silence for billions of years without change. Black holes swallowing light and matter and time itself. Radiation spreading outward into nothing forever. Vast stretches of emptiness where nothing has ever happened and nothing ever will. And yet here, against all probability, on this small rocky planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star at the edge of an ordinary spiral galaxy, in an ordinary corner of an ordinary supercluster, something extraordinary happened. Something woke up. Something looked around at the universe that created it. Something asked the question, why? Something felt awe and wonder and gratitude. That's you. That's me. That's all of us. We are the universe asking questions about itself. We are matter contemplating matter. We are energy wondering about energy. We are the cosmos become conscious of its own existence, not because we were meant to be, not because some plan required our existence, but simply because we happened to be, against all odds, against all probability, against everything that might have prevented us from ever existing at all. And there's nothing more precious than that realization, nothing more improbable in all of creation. Nothing more worth protecting and cherishing and passing on to future generations. Earth wasn't meant for humans. Humans weren't meant at all. We're accidents, we're flukes, we're impossibilities that somehow happened anyway. But we're here, despite everything, against all odds, for a little while. And we get to see the stars scattered across the night sky. We get to feel the wind on our faces. We get to love each other deeply and wonder about it all together. We get to ask why and search for answers. We get to create beauty and meaning in a universe that provides neither. That's not a consolation prize for not being the chosen species. That's the greatest prize there is. That's winning the cosmic lottery against odds too large to calculate. So the next time you look at your hand, those 5 fingers, that soft, vulnerable skin, those ancient atoms arranged just so, remember what you're really looking at. You're looking at 4 billion years of Earth's unbroken history written in flesh. You're looking at dead stars that exploded long before our sun existed. You're looking at a message from the very beginning of time, written in bone and blood and nerve, that says something is here, something is awake, something is aware of itself and its universe. Something, against all reason and all probability, exists. And it doesn't have to. Nothing required it. No law demanded it, but it does anyway. And once you truly see it, you can never unsee it again. The universe is under no obligation to make sense to us. It doesn't owe us comprehensibility. It doesn't owe us comfort or meaning or purpose. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, when we're alone under the stars, it whispers something to us anyway. Not an answer to our endless questions, just a feeling that rises from somewhere deep within. A sense that you're part of something vast beyond imagination, something ancient beyond calculation, something still unfolding in ways we cannot predict, something beautiful beyond all words. And you are. You always were. You always will be, even after the atoms that currently call themselves by your name have scattered to become something new. The universe will remember. The stars will remember. The atoms will carry forward whatever small mark you made during your brief time as you. I'll leave you with that. Sit with it for a while. Let it change you. Let it make you kinder. Let it make you wonder. Let it remind you every single day of the impossible gift of your own existence.